Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Changing Tides podcast. In each episode, we invite guests to have honest conversations about their mental health journeys with the goal of destigmatizing mental health within the Asian American Pacific Islander community. Due to the nature of the podcast, we'll be discussing a variety of mental health topics and possibly triggering experiences. While we and the majority of our guests are not trained professionals, we encourage you to practice self-care while listening and seek professional guidance if you or a loved one is in need of support. With that said, let's start the episode.
Hello, my name is Rosalyn Kawahira, and I would describe my mental health journey as ongoing.
Rosalyn, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Letting us use your beautiful store and background for an in-person interview.
Thank you.
I just want to hear about the mental health journey, and we'll talk about Nelly's craft, but why do you describe it as ongoing?
I will describe it as ongoing because it is an ongoing journey for me. It's really an up and down journey. I'm kind of inconsistent with it when it comes to taking care of my mental health. We have sort of these limited resources of time, attention, and money, and that kind of stuff. So really just trying to prioritize it is always a constant reminder back to doing it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of like a ever-present thing, but it's like, how do you even, like, you feel the emotions, but how do you even find the time? How do you have the resources, especially as a business owner?
Yeah.
And then it's just like and then sometimes you just want to like go home and relax, and you don't want to have to deal with the other stuff.
Yeah. And I think the learning part of it is it's like, well, if maintaining good, healthy mental health is challenging, like learning about the indicators of when I need to pay more attention, like what's happening to my body, what's happening in my mind. And that has also been kind of an ongoing learning process too. And that awareness, I guess it is, that mindfulness about what's happening in your body, like how does it manifest if I'm not paying attention to my mental health? And right. Yeah.
When would you say that awareness and the mental health journey began?
That's a good question. Okay, so I think, like I always understood the existence of like therapy and stuff like that, but I think maybe my active mental health journey was my first experience with therapy, which was in college. So, I don't know, 18, 19, 20 probably. Yeah, that was my first personal experience with going to therapy and having a therapist. Yeah.
And how was that for you? Was it scary? Was it relieving?
I went because I think I felt like I was losing it. I went because I was experiencing PTSD. When I was in college and I was home for winter break one day, our home was broken into.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and my father leaves for work very early in the morning, and so it was me, my mom, my grandma, and so we were attacked by two men who broke into our home, and which was a discrete, specific experience, and not really think much about it. You go back to school and you go to school, you go to class, and I couldn't function. And, it's like, oh, what's going on with me? And I kind of had like a breakdown in public. So I kind of went to therapy because I was really embarrassed. I was really embarrassed of my behavior. And it's like, oh, well, these are resources that are around, so why don't I go try it? And it was in that moment very helpful. So it wasn't really about like trying to explore what, like kind of like I don't know, the normal stressors of college, but it really exasperated what I was going through. And then it was at that time where they were like, oh, these are indicators of PTSD.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, oh, okay. So that's why I went.
Would you say that description was relieving to have a name to it, or was it scary to hear that you have this?
Yeah, because this is the other thing. Like, I feel like the naming was relieving, and learning that, of course, that this is also quite common for the experience that you go through, and there is a kind of protocol towards healing. And that was, but at the same time, you're in college, and it's like, how do I still maintain my life and that kind of stuff. And actually, at the end of the day, I took a break from school for many other reasons, but I think that was also the catalyst of me trying to figure out like more about my mental health and what was important to me and that kind of stuff. So I think it was actually kind of an opportunity for me to explore more deeply what my mental health was about. Right. So in that way, it opened up more awareness about what was going on. Having the experience of going to therapy as, I don't know, I guess an adult was like, oh, I probably could have benefited this,
Right.
earlier. So, yeah.
So this somehow brings us to how we even know each other.
Yeah.
And Nalita's craft and being a small business owner.
Yeah.
How did your journey bring you to Little Tokyo, to small business ownership, to First Street? How does it all come together for you?
Yeah. How does it all come together?
Did you go to school for?
No, I had a long career fundraising for charities. I was a development officer at East West Players, just diagonal from us for a time. I had a lot of experience in Little Tokyo growing up. I grew up in Los Angeles, and I'm JA, so I'd always come here for stuff. My family belongs to Higashi Honganji Temple, so I would always come here for stuff. And then, in college, I had a bunch of internships. I interned at LTSC. I interned at the museum. I did a lot of activities at the JACCC. So Little Tokyo has always been kind of a part of the fabric of my life in a lot of different ways. And I think wanting to have a shop here was actually kind of secondary, I think, like here itself. I think I wanted a shop here because I also live here, and I didn't want to commute anymore. And that was kind of during the pandemic. I think like a lot of people, I had a pandemic reckoning about, kind of an existential thing about like, what am I doing with my time and that kind of stuff. Which was really weird because fundraising for charities is a really rewarding experience, especially if you believe in the charity that you're fundraising for, right. which I did. At the time, it was for children's health, and it was really great. I got to work with a lot of nurses and doctors and service providers. I worked with a lot of parents who felt very grateful and passionate about certain topics around children's health. So meeting people and doing the work I was doing, it was very rewarding and aligned with my values. However, the idea of, how else do I want to spend my time was kind of always there. And what else do I always wanted to do? And I really always wanted to open a brick and mortar storefront of some kind. My dad had a convenience store when I was growing up, so I was very familiar with that type of work environment. I talked to a lot of people. I had a therapist at the time, and so, I was talking about how do I justify like a sabbatical in my life, you know, and you know, you don't need to justify it. You don't. You figure out a way to do it, and you do it. And so that's what I did. You know, I quit my job. I kind of putzed around. I had other jobs for a while, and during that time, I knew this space was available. This space was available throughout the pandemic, and it turns out that the landlord, she knew my parents, like from back in the day, which was really funny. So, you know, we met and we talked and we worked it out. So I'm here now. Yeah.
One of the things that like brought us together is, you know, my boss Peter, and also like Changing Tides as a whole. Like, we're so fond of like the way mental health and art can have a relationship. Like, that's how Changing Tides really started.
Yeah.
Was art and mental health.
Yeah.
Because it's such an expressive form,
Yes.
modality. Like, can you talk about like the role that art or crafting plays a role in your journey or in mental health as a whole?
Sure. I will say I am not a mental health professional.
Right.
I did start out my career in social services at an organization called CPAF, Center for the Pacific Asian Family. They provide domestic violence services to immigrant women and children. And through that organization, I met another organization called A Window Between Worlds.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
And so they use art as healing. And so they train service providers in domestic violence agencies to have pretty much like art groups with their clients. And now I think they've expanded to other types of social service agencies, not just domestic violence. But they are very specific in that this isn't art therapy, but it's just using art as a healing tool. And that really resonated with me. I definitely saw that kind of impact with the clients where I worked, and you know, and throughout the rest of my career, just knowing how and learning how the arts are so important in anyone's journey, whether or not you need healing per se from trauma, or just processing or being mindful. You know, like early on there was the whole like adult coloring book situation, and the whole like coloring in mandala designs and stuff like that. So it's like, oh well, it's starting to become a little bit more mainstream in that way. But early on in my career, when I first was introduced with Window Between Worlds, it was definitely more than just coloring. There was just a lot of more like crafty aspects, building aspects, and of course the storytelling aspect of it too, where people are telling their own story through whatever they're making at the time. And really just being able to see the kinds of calmness that it can bring to people, even with children, you know, children being able to articulate their story, articulate their feelings, even if they couldn't, you know, have the words for it. That was also very transformative at the time. So having that experience really early on in my career, I think really influenced me, not just with this shop per se, but also just me personally too.
Did that play, I mean, besides that, like what led to specifically a craft shop? Because social services, charity fundraising, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's true. Well, so I'll be totally honest. When I decided to open up a shop, it kind of didn't matter what kind of shop. I had a number of different ideas that I was pushing forward at the same time. And when things kind of got narrowed down, and I was kind of talking with Rumi, my landlord, more about this space and
Rumi's your landlord?
Yeah.
I didn't know Rumi was okay.
Well, her family runs the whole building.
I did not know that.
And so she's here managing the shop.
Got it.
So she manages kind of all the tenants here.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So that's been really fun. That she also runs the Dodger shop next door.
Right.
So we have that, we're really aligned in that way. But, you know, and so talking with her, kind of narrowing it down, really kind of deciding I wanted to be here, and what does this space, what can this space be?
Right.
So, I brought in some consultants to figure out like costs and stuff like that of what things can be, and other ideas, were either too expensive or would take too long, and so they kind of fell off by the wayside, and the one that was sort of left was the craft shop. I wanted to actually do kind of like craft and snacks sort of situation, but the kitchen was too expensive, so I was like, all right, a retail workshop space. So it was just kind of, it just sort of happened that way. Like, this is how it ended up. This was an option of many, I guess.
Oh, very cool. You wanted to bring a business to Little Tokyo.
At the end of the day, yeah, that's kind of what it was. And I think, I take very seriously that I am in Little Tokyo. I know, or I feel that it's not just having a business to have a business. It's about, kind of the history and context of being here too, and coming in knowing that, but being here and learning more about that was really great too. And meeting more people who are really active in preserving the history and honoring the history while still advancing the goals and values of the community really helps me, feel like I'm part of the community too. Yeah. So that was really important to me, and that was also kind of unexpected to me. I will say, something that was super unexpected, me being here, and we have this side of Little Tokyo is a little bit sleepier, and so there's less foot traffic, less activity, but you see I feel like I can feel more of the energy of the business per se, like being next door to Rumi and really being able to see how much care and love she puts into curating things and identifying things for people. It's kind of like a by fans for fans situation, totally. And I like that's energizing for me. And then of course I go to like latte shop all the time, and they're cool people. But the one thing that I really want to talk about too is when I first opened, I had like this grand opening thing, and I had some giveaways for customers, and I bought some gift cards for people, and I bought a gift card from Aze. And I met Chef there, and he said, "Oh, when are you opening?" And I told him. And the day of my grand opening event, I had been soft open for a few weeks, but the day of my grand opening day, he brought me this giant tray of pear tarts, which was so unexpected, and it made me feel so special. Like, he didn't have to do that. And this is like the pear tart that they sell for dessert. And it was this giant tray of them. And it was like, I was just so touched, and I feel like that kind of exemplifies this side of the block in a way. Like, everyone is a family business. Everyone is a small business. And everyone is kind of looking out for each other that way. And that was something that was so unexpected, and I think about that moment a lot, and because I think it represents a lot of what I would want to do for others as well. And that was modeled for me.
Yeah, because I went to over. Again, it's been like a couple of years since I've done the podcast. But when I went over to interview Philip, like, Chef was just there in the corner on his phone, giggling at Facebook or something or the other. And like, Philip continues to carry that like giving forward, and then the opening of Onsen, or the reopening of Onsen. And I'd love to think that the energy and the family aspect is spreading to, hopefully, the patrons of Little Tokyo. I feel like hopefully that's coming.
I think so. I think we can think about the values of Little Tokyo being demonstrated that way. So yeah, hopefully.
You talked about so much of the pre-planning
Yeah.
that goes into the business, but that's obviously a stressor.
Yeah.
But now you had the grand opening. You've been here for how many years have you?
Almost 2 years.
So you've been here for almost 2 years. Can you talk about the stressors of a small business ownership?
Sure. I think budgeting is always a stressor. I mean, for anything, for profits or nonprofits, and so us as well. Figuring out if you could achieve what you want to achieve with the resources that you have, and trying to plan that. Product market fit, our customers picking up what I'm selling, and in the beginning, it was, of course it's hard to build momentum. But, I think people are, at least little by little, and that's my hope eventually. And then, I think surprise costs are I really tried to figure out what are all these taxes and fees that I need to pay. The small business program at Little Tokyo Service Center was very helpful with that. So I encourage everyone to do that. But things are also really unexpected, like tariffs all of a sudden, that's an extra 30% right there on top of everything else. So, and even though, it was struck down as being illegal, I still get tariff harassment calls. But that's okay. I mean, it's part of it, and that is a stressor. You have to pay for it. How are you going to pay for it? What else? And I think I also want to say that I know the choices that I've made to quit my job and open a business and having all these expenses is an incredibly privileged choice. A lot of folks who do open businesses, especially immigrants and our ancestors and my father, if you're an ambitious person, you don't have career growth working for somebody else. You work for yourself. It's not like you're not climbing the ladder, but you're really just trying to make it work. And for me, I recognize that, and so I think, how do I contribute, to the neighborhood with this privilege that I have is also something that's always on my mind. How can I be the most helpful? How can I continue to, Chef, demonstrate the values of the community, through the work that I do.
Right.
And I'm by myself too, so it's I'm kind of the shop. I have to adopt these values and situations. I mean, they're also my values. So it's how do I actually show up for that in the work of the shop too? So I don't know if it's a stressor necessarily. I think it is challenging, but it's just something that's kind of always permeating throughout the work. I mean, in a way, it'd be easier if you were just I just need to sell stuff, but which is a challenge in and of itself. But I think what helps is that I know I'm not alone. LTSC is there to help, and other organizations too, other businesses too are also showing up in a lot of different ways. Restaurants, I couldn't do the work that a lot of the restaurants here do, of course, so. And a lot of the longtime businesses who have more stability, or just more, I don't know, I guess recognition in the neighborhood, they're able to lead in ways that I can't. But they are a good model for what I can do maybe eventually, or give me some ideas of what I can do eventually, or how to partner with them too. So yeah, good partners, I know I'm not alone, and it's helpful. And so that's helpful. Yeah.
I must give you your flowers, because you're being modest, I think.
Okay.
Because we were talking via email about this, but my memory of the first time I came in, first off, I bought a Dodger sticker.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have a great sticker collection.
Oh, thank you.
But we were talking about doing your workshops for our mental health conference, which was a big hit. People loved the workshops.
Oh, great.
But as you and I were chatting, a few people came in, and the young woman who was with them was just like, she said this was like one of her favorite stores in Little Tokyo. And then the gentleman she was with just got his citizenship. And this was like his first stop after getting his citizenship.
Oh, wow.
It's like, what? For me, I was like just sitting here for the first time. I'm like, how often does this happen? Like where someone gets their citizenship because City Hall is just around the corner.
Yeah.
And they're like, let me stop in and buy some crafts.
Yeah.
But like, I say this to lead to my next question, which is like, what, being a different type of business than, a lot of people come in for the restaurants or to buy knickknacks like the Sonny's Angels or whatever, like the blind boxes. But like, what victories do you get to experience by being a craft and workshop store?
I think for me, one of the things that was really wonderful to see as part of my workshops, when folks kind of have a creative block or some kind, and they can't, and the block is it's like a weird mental block where you can't make a mark on your page.
Right.
Like it's so strong where you can't make a mark on a page, and to see them finally get over it and do something is really quite extraordinary, and it's really kind of, I think, the collaboration among so many elements of the shop. One is the activity. Like one of the objectives of the shop is that it's for beginners, and so nothing is impossible to do. It's really quite this entry level of really trying to overcome the block, and so sort of that environment. I think the people who come to the workshops, they're really supportive, maybe just inherently supportive, which is amazing, and I'm very grateful for it. And my instructor, all my instructors I feel really understand the objective, and are very gentle, and really, and our classes are small, so providing that one-on-one is important, and they're able to do that. So all those elements together, and when someone is like, this isn't perfect, or I'm going to make a mistake, or having those types of fears, and then getting over those fears is amazing to me, and it happens quite frequently. And I'm proud that I'm able to provide a space that can help people overcome those fears and push them in a direction where they can be creative with no consequence.
Right.
There's no reason there's no reason to be afraid of making a mistake, because it's not a mistake. It's just trying new things. So that happens quite frequently. Yeah.
I think that's why we love to do at the Ebb and Flow, like mental health conference, we love to have an art workshop, because people are there for the mental health aspect, but then like they get to slow down, learn or try a craft, and just like be free to mess up or not mess up, just try something new.
Right.
And I think that's one of the reasons why Changing Tides has always been passionate about art and mental health. But one thing I do want to highlight, because I learned this last year, is some of the, like, you do your workshops, but you also offer like services and space for people. Like, what are some of the like work, like one-on or like individual like items people can rent out or try out?
Yeah. We have equipment, like an embroidery machine, a sewing machine, a screen printer, and a Cricut, which is a computerized, what do they call it, cutter or something, but it's a Cricut. So people can use that, and we use that in our workshops as well. And I think for for me, it's really another thing is about, giving people the resources to try and like make stuff,
right.
And try to just sort of like manifest their ideas or experiment and try new things. So people have made different stickers here with the Cricut, sort of just like small run like die cut stickers, which is really fun. Some people have used the screen printer to make T-shirts for their 3-on-3 basketball tournament at
nice.
the Budokan. So like their team is like 7 people maybe,
right.
and so they screen print 7 T-shirts. And then I had a friend who screen printed some bandanas for a fundraiser, so that was really fun. So things like that, yeah. And then there's a couple people who are trying to design clothes. So they use the embroidery machine to just sort of try stuff, which is amazing because that's sort of the point.
Right.
Yeah.
I just think it's so cool because, like, we're in downtown LA. People have limited space, and it's like, I never thought like, oh, could I go somewhere to sew? Could I go somewhere to screen print? And it's just like, there's spaces like you're offering that space to a metropolitan area, which I love. Which, I think probably the listeners can hear the sounds of First Street. And like, one thing that I'm always curious about, because there's City Hall just around the corner, is the protests that happen. And, obviously, like, I know you're supportive with the ice out of Little Tokyo signs that you have at the door, but like, how does that affect you as a small business owner? Because often it's over the weekend when Little Tokyo is the busiest. So I'm just curious how that impacts you.
At a lot of community meetings, people talk about the financial impact on their business. For a lot of the restaurants, especially last year when there were curfews, a lot of the bars couldn't open at night and that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of financial loss. I was very early opening last year. I hadn't been open a year yet. So I wasn't making any money anyway at the time. This year's a little bit different, but last year was hard to say. But so for me, I also want to recognize kind of the emotional toll that these things happen on me. But I think, I don't know. I'm trying to also, when I talk to other business owners and kind of trying to tell them to take care of themselves and recognize stuff, but also give them the space to feel their feelings. But I find that a lot of folks are really triggered by it, at least last year. I think this year, because the protests are happening a little bit more regularly and they're a little bit more spread out, there are a lot more protest sites. Maybe it's less concentrated here. And I think here it's becoming a little bit more, I don't know if it's organized or regular, where people kind of expect to come to Little Tokyo to patronize, and instead of maybe necessarily march through, where you need to close. But last year I think it was really stressful. I think people were really triggered, and for me, the stressor was, I don't know, less about being triggered by the massive amounts of people here protesting, and just kind of more about how to support the businesses. They've obviously had a lot more experience being in Little Tokyo during different kinds of protests and hard times than me. So I feel like part of my role in that way was like maybe listening and trying to provide that emotional support. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does, because I think, like, I'm always just curious because, like, for example, like you mentioned the bars, like the businesses that I follow on Instagram, for example, they'll say either, we're staying open or we're going to close early to respect the curfew or to keep our patrons safe. And like, now that I have the chance to talk to you in this format, I was just curious about, how it impact you as a business owner, because there's so many stressors that go in with that.
I think, I'm a business on First Street. I know people who march to City Hall. It's right there. So we're kind of in between us and like the metro station and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's like, again, like going back to being part of the community, like how am I the most helpful, and like how can I contribute, and how can my actions, reflect my values, and part of that is, I'm here already, and I pay for the space, and I want to be supportive to the folks who are brave and out there and putting their bodies in the way of harm and stuff like that. And it's like, I'll be open, and I've been to protests in the past, and it's like, well, I get really overstimulated really easily. So it's like, well, let's have like a quiet space. So that's kind of what I decided to do during that time. Mainly because that's what I would want.
Right.
And it's helpful, I think. I think, people take advantage of the space, and have like nature sounds and AC and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And
I mean, like, we ran into it because we had our Okaidi fundraiser at JACCC the same day as the No Kings protest.
Yeah.
And it's like, Okaidi, an LGBTQ plus program, like, that's a resistance to this administration. The trans community specifically is always under attack. Yeah. And then, like, some people attended, they went to the restroom, switched into their Nikkei Progressives t-shirt, and headed to the protest right after. So it's like, it's like the give and take of, do we continue? Do we adjust our dates? Or do we stay open? Do we show our support in a safe space like you created? Or with Okaidi keeping their event date? It's just like, there's so many considerations in this super fun atmosphere that we're in right now. But, you said so much about, providing support to other businesses or providing support or a safe space for people here. What have you learned in the process of being a business owner here for the last 2 years? Either about yourself or about being a business owner, or about Little Tokyo. There's so much that we
what
can
have I
talk
learned? Gosh, I don't know. The learning is daily, really. That's no joke. I think for me, what do I say? Little Tokyo, I feel, is pretty well organized with really good people who, who can organize people, I guess. Like, it's well organized in that way. I know LTSC does a lot of work in that area to advocate for people, to have very visible programs that help really vulnerable people, and also programs that are very much, they help small businesses as well, not just the small business program, but other things like the broader community stuff, like the Little Tokyo Community Council and Sustainable Little Tokyo. It's like really helping support the infrastructure in that way. And I think plugging into stuff like that has been a really eye-opening experience, and very helpful experience as well. And that's something also unexpected and something that I'm very grateful for. And also it's like, how do I, even though, I'm running a business, everyone's running a business and everyone's really busy, it's like, how can I still, plug in and contribute in various ways that I can.
Right.
So that's always kind of a learning thing. I think for me also, when it comes to like challenges, like what are my boundaries? Like my boundaries have been changing a lot, I think, there are a lot of unhoused people and who walk around, a lot of folks who might be having an episode on the street, who maybe come into the shop, and it's like, well, what are the ways that I can support this person maybe having a mental health crisis? Like, I really need to be able to articulate to myself, what are my boundaries and like, how am I going to help?
Right.
So exercising that has been really interesting. Hasn't been anything that I'd had to do before necessarily. And service providers like, ambulances and fire departments, they've been also helpful, I suppose. And so also knowing what those resources are, I think, too, that's also learning, like knowing what those resources are. We have Circle now, which is sort of the non-emergency 24/7 number. I don't know what it stands for, Circle, but it stands for something.
I'll add it in the description of the episode or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So learning what the resources are, learning what my boundaries are, and being able to articulate to myself, like, how are those specific ways that I can help and contribute.
Right.
I think those, that's what I've been learning. Yeah.
What I've learned is that you clearly still have your social services
thank you.
background. So much help has been the key word. I'm gonna incorporate help into the title somehow, I think. Because you're such a helper and it's so cool.
It might be a trauma response, who knows?
Okay. You know what? We could dive into that, but that would be a long podcast.
Yeah, it would be.
And we could do the same with me.
Yeah.
So I've loved to hear more about the background because, just as someone who loves the shop and like the space that you provide, it's been great to hear more about you. I know over email you were worried about the quickfire round.
Okay.
Don't worry about it too much, but is there anything you'd like to share about yourself or the shop before we get to that?
Anything about myself or the shop? No, I think that's it.
I know you have to open in about 30 minutes, so we'll just do the quickfire round and then I'll get out of the way. So, if you could invite 3 people to dinner, dead or alive, who would they be?
Oh my gosh.
This one isn't very quick. It takes. It does.
It's not quick. It's not quick fire for sure. Dad, I don't know. That's a really great question. Oh my! I have no idea. Who would I invite to dinner? I don't know. I'm so sorry.
No.
You should like cut and edit because it's taking way too long.
We could pass.
No. What have other people said?
Oh gosh, people like to go to the Obamas.
Oh,
I think when I was interviewed, I said LeBron. People have said relatives.
Oh, relatives.
People have said the Dalai Lama, I think. There's the gambit, It could be personal, it could be heroes.
Yeah. Okay, so we didn't really talk about this, but I've been thinking a lot about this for myself and my family. So, there's a phrase nowadays that's pretty common called generational trauma.
Yeah.
It really wasn't a thing when I was growing up, but I think it really reflects a lot, and also reflects a lot of what I see in Little Tokyo too. As a historic site, as we know, there's a lot of, I think, generational trauma embedded here in Little Tokyo too. But the thing that that it took me an embarrassingly long time to realize is that yes, I'm a child of immigrants, as many people are, but so is my mother. My mother too is a child of immigrants, and I think to be able to sit down and talk to her as a young person and also her mother as a young person, I think would be fascinating to me. I don't know if it's fascinating, but maybe I want to provide them with like reassurance of some kind.
Yeah.
My mother's mother had lost her mom really young. And so she died in childbirth, giving birth to my grandma's younger brother. My grandma had to drop out of school and essentially be a parent to her younger brother. And then when she grew older, she was sent to Peru as a picture bride. Yeah, so, being married off, essentially. So a lot of trauma in her life. And with this is also like early 20th century kind of stuff too, where you're on a boat for like 3 weeks not knowing where you're going as a young person.
Right.
Like no one does that anymore. Actually, no, they do it all the time still. But this is my grandma.
Yeah.
And how that affected her as an adult and how that affected her parenting of my mom. And then my mom then grew up and became an immigrant too. Yeah. So just trying to maybe talk to them as young people with maybe, I don't know, the information that we all know now about mental health and how to take care of yourself and recognizing these healthier aspects of supporting each other. I think that might be interesting.
That would be very interesting.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a Back to the Future.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Situation you have.
Maybe.
Sorry to give you such a hard first quick fire round. It's the same one that everyone struggles with.
Really?
So, yes, everyone struggles with that one. Even me when I was interviewed, even though like that's the question I ask everyone else.
Yeah, well, I think for me too, it's like, I don't know, I really enjoy my friends and my family, and we hang out all the time, and that's kind of enough.
You don't need a dream dinner, Would you have any words of advice to a small business owner who's just starting?
Who's just starting?
Like, should everyone have Shopify? Should everyone have Square? Like, what's the thing that you might have missed?
Oh, no, I don't know. I think what's really hard is that a lot of these really large companies are leaning into things that are totally against what I want to support. So it's really, really hard to support them.
Right.
But I have them because that's how I built my business. So it's like, I don't know. How do I get away from it? It's hard to say. But I really think there's so much support out there to build your small business. Yeah. It's like capital is important. Having money is important for sure. But there are, especially in Los Angeles or maybe it's California, there are just so many more intricacies about building your business as part of the Los Angeles community, not just about like permits and things like that. Those are important, and but it's also just like additional fees and taxes that you need to budget for.
And tariffs.
Yeah. Oh, well, and the tariffs too. Yeah. But who knew that was coming? Right. But building it, there are a lot of folks who have done it before you, and there are a lot of people who will do it after you. So, and there's a lot of people who are willing to share. Yeah. I'm tremendously grateful to the people I reached out to, just sort of out of the blue, really. I've patronized this small shop in Highland Park for a really long time. Be Nice, Have Fun. Oh. They're a little boutique. They are unfortunately being pushed out of their space by their landlord.
Oh my gosh. How come that happens all the time?
It happens all the time.
We keep hearing about small businesses pushed out.
That's another podcast.
I know. Yeah.
But the owner, Destiny, and her team were really helpful to me with advice, and I'm just really grateful. And like, again, you know, the way they've provided a community space within their retail shop for Highland Park, was also a really great model for me too. So. I talked to her, and I talked to a small business in Boston called Gather Here as well. So there's a lot of people who are willing to share, and who are willing to really share their wisdom and give of themselves, for people who are, I don't know, willing to listen and connect with. So there are a lot of people who are open to helping. There are a lot of like state-funded programs too, like the small business program at Little Tokyo Service Center. And there's a lot of them in Los Angeles, in the South Bay, in Pasadena, and Little Tokyo. So you don't have to do it yourself. Right. Even though I'm running the business myself, again, also by choice. People are also there to help you. Yeah. So just by reaching out, I don't know, there's also kind of like this vulnerability aspect. Like you don't have to be strong all the time. Asking for help because people are there. And in a way, I feel like Little Tokyo is very unique to that. Not just the small business program, but like Go Little Tokyo and the way they promote the neighborhood with like really, you know, 21st century PR, quite frankly, you know, it's like, that's amazing. Like all this, the whole like collabs and activations and social media and that whole thing. Like that's something that I can't strategize around, you know, I mean.
You got Bill Watanabe filming any and every video.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's great. Like,
yeah.
I would have never thought of that. And I look at it and like, that is genius.
Yeah.
Absolutely genius.
Yeah.
So, so like the way they're able to, you know, just sort of like bring the PR to the 21st century with all these new strategies is amazing. And so I'm really grateful for their support and being able to know that that's a resource. Yeah. So that's been great too. But yeah, like for a small business, like try and plug in and try and, you know, ask for help and be vulnerable, and just also being able to like, you know, state your goals in kind of a way where people can also plug into what you're doing. I think is also helpful. Yeah. Yeah.
The last question I have for you, and I'll stop sniffling on the mic. I'm so sorry to the listener and to you. What craft are you currently trying to learn that maybe you haven't mastered?
Oh, I am trying to learn so many. I'm a dabbler, and I don't know, I think that's also my customer, but we'll see. So I'm doing 3 active projects right now. I'm doing a sashiko project, I'm doing a knitting project, and I'm doing a sewing project. So those are the 3 that are in the works right now.
Which would you say is the most challenging?
They're all challenging in the same kind of way. I mean, it's really, okay, so I think I had the most experience with my knitting project. So maybe that's the least challenging. The stitch is just a garter stitch, so that's pretty easy to do. It's just really finding the time to do it, you know. So I do it in front of the TV sometimes. I'm in the sewing project. That's kind of new. I'm less experienced with sewing. So putting together the pattern pieces, making sure they all fit correctly, that's been kind of a challenge. And that's kind of incorporating both like hand sewing and machine sewing. But yeah, like cutting out a pattern and putting it together like in the right way. Like, wow. Because sometimes it doesn't get put together in the right way, and you wonder what you did wrong. But again, you know, you take it apart and you start again. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And then my sashiko project, the stitch is just one running stitch, and it really is just about the the practice of it to get, consistent stitches or stitch faster or finding your own rhythm.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an ongoing thing for me too.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for the time. I know that we also have a workshop coming up for our college and high school students, which unfortunately is not open to the public.
Yeah.
So sorry to the listeners, but no, thank you so much
Yeah.
for your time.
Anytime.
And I'll let you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. If you did enjoy this episode, you can subscribe to our show for episodes that will probably release every month, and give us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. If you would like to support our podcast and help us grow, you can do so with a donation to the link at the bottom of the episode description. To hear more about Changing Tides, follow us on Instagram at LTSC_Changing Tides, or check out our website, thechangingtides.org. Let's continue to change the tide on mental health.
We got